STIHL Kombi attachment 101, the Kombi line head attachment. I think everybody who owns a STIHL Kombi probably has the line head attachment, and we need to know a little bit how to make this thing last, how to enjoy how it performs, some of the maintenance items. So let's start today, guys, Josh with Carl's Mower and Saw, and talk about maintenance, how to load the head, and what you need to know to not pull your hair out over frustration. So maintenance is very simple on this thing. Really, you're going to try to prevent the grass from getting wrapped up around the gearbox, and with this sweet steel design, that rarely happens. We're going to have to grease this shaft once in a while, and we got to grease the gearbox itself and reload the trimmer head. So let's start with the greasing of the shaft. This happens probably for a commercial guy once a year it should. For a consumer, probably once every 5 years, but if you want to do it once a year, it's really not going to hurt. I'm going to take this plug here on the end out. This is a bushing sort of thing. This keeps the shaft in the machine. And usually I can use a flathead screwdriver, which I don't have in my hand, so I'm going to use this round rod and slide that out. There is my solid steel Kombi drive shaft, and there's a very light layer of grease. See that? Yes, on this. And that's going to keep this thing lubricated well as it's spinning at a high RPM and keep it from heating up and melting. You're going to then, if you're trying to lube it up, you're going to take your steel grease and lightly rub this down there. And I'm going to take a paper towel and just wipe it off. So put this Kombi bushing back in, and we're going to depress this tab, and Kombi bushing is in. Next is gearbox. So STIHL recommends greasing the gearbox every 50 hours. Let's go ahead and grease the shaft every 50 hours. That's easy. Again, you're putting on a light amount of grease on the shaft. So to get to that gearbox, remove this screw on the end, and it's going to be ran with your T27 Torx or a 13 millimeter socket. The first time you take it loose, I would usually recommend you use a 13 millimeter socket because it's in there tight. That's going to come out. You'll see a little bit of grease on the end of that. Now I'm going to take my STIHL Super Lube right here, remove the cap, remove the foil wrapper. Not going to do that this time around. I'm going to thread this in. I'm going to squeeze lightly, turn this head a few times, squeeze a little bit more, pop it out, voila, and we are greased and good to go. Now if you don't do this, it's not the end of the world, but more than likely between 400 and 500 hours, this gearbox is going to have a catastrophic failure because it did not get the lubrication it needed. So every 50 hours, if I'm a homeowner user, let's just do it once a year. Let's just get it on a schedule. Let's do it once a year because guess what? You're probably not making hash marks on your run time. And I haven't found where the hour meter is on this yet. Somewhere, but I can't find it. So, just do it once a year. Let's make life easy. Okay, let's talk about how to rewind this head real quickly. I need to take this white cap off. This is a STIHL AutoCut 27-2. This replaces the STIHL AutoCut 25-2, a head that was on the market for 25 years, maybe more, and worked really well. The 27-2 is the replacement and really similar. So what they've changed on the 27-2 is the removing of the cap. They've put the tabs on the side, and it should be easier to press those in than the 25-2. Depress it, pull it out. My cap is off. Let's go ahead and get rid of the trimmer line that's on it. We're going to load this spool up with 095 trimmer line, okay? It can run 105. 105 doesn't feed quite as well. It can run 095. That feeds really well, cuts well. It can also run .080. If you run a really tight short lawn, then you probably want to run .080 because it's just going to cut nicer. Now it doesn't last as long because it's a thinner diameter, but boy, that cut quality is better. It's almost like it's more like having a sharp lawnmower blade versus a dull lawnmower blade, if that makes sense. We like this black twist stuff. We also like the STIHL CF3. These are our two most popular trimmer lines. This is feedback from our commercial operators on what they like. Try to stick with a rounded line. It seems as we get into edges, whether that be square or triangle or diamond or whatever, they catch on one another and they don't feed as well. So 3 arm lengths, boom. Gonna give me roughly 18 feet of line. I could squeeze a little bit more on. I can actually fit, I believe, up to 27 feet on here. That's when we start running into problems. So if we look closely, we're gonna have 2 slots here, and 180 degrees, we're gonna have 2 slots. And then if we really look, one says 105 and one says 095. So I would take and put 095 on one side, rotate 180 degrees and put 095 on the other side. This is not usually how I do it. I find that it just doesn't work right with getting the start of the trimmer line. It holds it a little more snugly to do that. But what I generally do, take both ends. Remember, I've got roughly 18 feet of line. I'm gonna slide one in here. Hopefully you can see this. I know I'm using black line on a black head, but you can see it. So I'm gonna put the line in like that. I'm gonna then come back and I'm gonna hold that in place like so, grab it with my left hand, keep it engaged and twist. Just winding it up. Remember, rounded 095 trimmer line is the best match for this, whether that be a STIHL trimmer line, whether that be our desert extrusion trimmer line, which we find works really well. Okay, as we wind this up, we're gonna get to the end of this, and I have this loop. When we get there, our next step is gonna be to lock it in the top tabs. Snip it somewhere in the middle. Now take a peek here. You see, this says 095, and this says 105. You'll see a video where I go over this, and I ended my frustration. These pieces of trimmer line will actually clip into either, I can put 095 in this 105 slot. It really doesn't matter. But what I have found is when I use the 105 slot, this trimmer head doesn't want to go back together right. So always pop it in the 095 slot. In fact, something I've started doing is snipping these little suckers off so I can't screw up. So you can still put 105 in, but I've gotten rid of the confusion spot. Okay, 095 is in place. Push down, twist, line it up. So see how that's all lined up perfectly? It will pop up, so I gotta keep my thumb holding it down, feed that one out. If I come back just a little bit, like 1 degree, it holds it in place. Line it up, feed it out, back just a little bit, held in place. And take my cap, put my cap back on, good to go. That's how you load that head. It's easy, practice a little bit, you'll get used to it, works really well. How do I take the head off? Well, why would I want to take the head off? Because there's all kinds of cool other heads that you can put on this. You can put the polycut head on, you can put a DuraCut head on. With a kit, you can put a blade on it. So there's a lot of different attachments that you can, or accessories you can put on the end. A polycut head works good on long green material. A DuraCut, a fixed line head works really good if I'm getting into some of the heavier stuff. Really, a bump head is the way to go for trimming around the lawn. To take this head off, I'm going to take this rod. It's going to go in this hole right here. I'm going to hold it in and I'm going to rotate until it's locked. And now clockwise, I'm going to spin this off. Off comes the head, and we're good to go to put on the next attachment or next accessory. Key right here, this sucker. Sometimes this thing will stick in here like so, and you go to put on your DuraCut and you spin it on, and now you're hooped. That head will not turn because I have no bearing for it to turn on, and I can't get it off. There are ways. I've created a special tool here that makes it doable, but it's a pain in the butt. So always, what's called your thrust plate, must stay on your line head. So always look for that piece, always needs to be there. Don't lose it. If not, you'll be coming to see me. I'll smile, I'll say I'm sorry, and we'll help you through it. There you go, your STIHL Kombi line head. You got the basics, you know about lubricating the shaft, the gearbox, you know how to wind the head, you know how to take it off. Have fun, enjoy the work, make your lawn pop.